So, the dark feminine and why the fuck she matters. And welcome, I'm in Maui. And if you guys are just jumping on, I'm outside of my balcony and neighbor's house behind me. I live next to a gulch and just a beautiful moment of scenery for all of us. Okay, so hey Geraldine, I'm happy you're here, love. Hi, love. So there's a lot going on in the transformational space about the dark feminine, the light feminine, hey, denial, shadow, all of that. And I want to do this we need to do this in my own terminology, not using any other mentors' language or terms. Yeah, it is gorgeous out here. And Geraldine's also in Hawaii, so I bet it's gorgeous where you are too, love. So there's a lot going on in the transformational space about the dark feminine, the light feminine, shadow alchemy. I'm going to teach this in my own terms, which is very, very much the language of the dark feminine. It's very much about your leadership, your embodiment, your business, your life purpose, okay? And I'm going to try to steer clear of other teachers' terms for the most part. Before we get into this, the dark feminine really exists in our bodies. So I'm going to invite us all to take a moment, myself included, to put our feet on the floor, to ground into the body, to breathe into the womb, to feel the lower chakras of the body, especially if you're a woman, the womb space, and even if you're a man, the womb space too. And to just feel that anchoring into the womb. And take a couple of breaths down into there, connecting lower in your body, whether that's undulating your hips for a moment or getting up and taking a walk around the space that you're in. And I'm sitting in a chair, but I'm definitely moving my hips right now to feel that deeper energy, to feel that sensuous energy, to feel that more primal energy. Hey, Edsila. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that right, love. So let's start with talking about what the light feminine is first, because that's going to help contextualize what the dark feminine is and is not. The light feminine is when you hear divine mother, mother goddess, goddess revival, goddess self-help. That's all referencing the light feminine. And the divine feminine has archetypes, countless archetypes. And I'm not going to get into all of them because that could be 12 hours. But an example of a light feminine archetype would be Kuan Yin. So if you go on Google and look up Kuan Yin, that's goddess of mercy, that's goddess of compassion. It's good stuff. It's great stuff. There's so many teachers teaching that. And that is totally valid. Yeah, hey girl, that's right. She's moving her pelvis now. We can all move our pelvises for the whole live stream, right? And see what happens after. So Kuan Yin is a great example of the light feminine. And when you go online and see goddess rising, feminine self-help, 99% of the time, that's referring to some aspect of the light feminine. That's love and light, reach for God, surrender to the universe. That's fine. It's just not what this is. The dark feminine refers to she who has come to the underworld and returned. And I'm going to say that again. It refers to she who has come to the underworld or gone to the underworld and returned. So if this topic or this mythology speaks to you, there's a couple of things that are very likely true about you. One, you have been on an immense personal healing journey, possibly to death and back. You have likely had some form of severe trauma or abuse or other horrific experience that you have learned greatly from. And you strongly associate with being a teacher or a leader or having your own body of work. But for whatever reason, the mainstream approaches of getting there, hey Brenda, are not cutting it for you. So if you're drawn to this topic, you probably have a couple of things true about you. One, you've been through your own journey of near-death experiences, and like Persephone, you've returned from the underworld. Two, you have your own deep, dark, horrific things that you've cleared or are clearing. In my own journey, it's been sexual abuse, but like beyond that, like sexual abuse mixed with mind control, mixed with other things that I've overcome and honestly still overcoming. And you've also had some sort of relationship to mysticism. Now, I don't just mean like candles and crystals. I mean like your body, sexuality, primal screaming, paganism, things that others would be like, oh, that's a little bit like more fierce, a little bit more raw. Oh, so this is, I've had 3. Do you mean like 3, near-death, deep, dark experiences? Yeah, I hear you on that. I've had like 7 or 8, or I have to count, but it's at least 5 or 6. So yeah, 3 is so normal for this. So welcome, you're in the right place. So the dark feminine is she who has gone to death and returned with gifts for the tribe, with gifts for the collective. This also fits in with the archetype of the priestess, which I might get to in this live stream, I might not. But when we talk about the dark feminine in terms of goddess archetypes, have you guys heard of Kali? In Hindu mythology, near-death experiences. Okay, yeah, so that's exactly what this is about. At Sale, it says NDE, near-death experiences. This is for those of you who have had near-death experiences. This is for those of you who, like myself, have had near-death experiences and like been raped on multiple occasions in your childhood. This is for those of you who have had 6 freak accidents in a row and are still here and like had some, extrasensory perception as a result. And you've had those experiences, and you also very, 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 very strongly associate with being a feminine visionary or leader. So that's who this is for. So to go back to the dark feminine, a great archetype, because archetypes are really useful as examples. So you and I and we all know what energies we're working with in our leadership. A great example of this would be Kali. So if you look at Hinduism, Kali is the goddess of death and rebirth. So she destroys, but out of that destruction comes more creation. And that's what my journey's been about. That's what some parts of your journey's been about. Hey, thanks, love. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Kali is she who destroys to create. Another example of this would be Persephone, who went to the underworld, almost died and like came back to life. So Persephone and her mythology of returning from the underworld is also an example of the dark feminine. And then there's Kali. So the question, of course, is why work with these archetypes at all? And the thing is this, like, why does this even matter, right? When we go through these experiences, these really dark, I don't want to say dark, these really heavy experiences, whether it's near-death experiences or multiple instances of rape, there's gold in there, there's power in there, there's medicine for ourselves and for other in there. Whether that medicine, like one of my superpowers for my journey has been a capacity to heal trauma in others at like 10 times the speed of therapy. And that's one of the examples of gold for my journey. So when we go into these experiences in our own lives, it's a question of what you do with them. It's a question of where's the gold. And the archetypes of the dark feminine make it so it's not just like, oh, I was traumatized and hurt. But then it becomes this linkage to, holy crap, all of my power is in here. Holy crap, alchemy is in here. Holy crap, magic is in here. You guys following this? Like, I'll get to some personal examples as we go. And if anybody wants to share, I know this is like an intense topic. If anybody wants to share personal things or ask questions, feel free to pop it in. So it's almost like the more underworldly your journey, the greater the potential for power. It's not about like what therapy teaches. Oh, now you've been traumatized and now you're broken and now you have to like be on box and a medication. No, fuck that shit. I mean, we all need therapy. We all need healing. But no. The depths of the pain is where the strongest seed of your actual power lies. And if you look at the energy of Kali, you start to see that every death cycle, every challenge, every pain, every whatever in your life or my life is actually an opportunity for rebirth. And it's an even deeper level of power than, the school of pure love and light. And I love love and light because this all ultimately takes us to actually a greater degree of love and light. And that's off topic. So that's a lot on the dark feminine because a lot of you guys have been asking me about that. I'm going to put in a note here, and there's so much more that I want to talk upon in this live, but there's a question, and I'm going to just touch upon this for a moment. There's a lot going around about like dark, light, and shadow, and those really aren't my terms, but to keep this super short, to clarify, shadow is like something you need to heal. Shadow is anger. No, I'm not going to say that. Shadow is like resentment. If you have a resentment or a grudge, that's shadow. That's not what the dark feminine is. The shadow is like resentment. Shadow is bitterness. Shadow is self-hatred. Everything that's shadow is what needs to be healed. Okay, guys? That's a different topic. The dark feminine is the gold and the power beneath the most challenging experiences, and the question of how do you alchemize that into total power, total leadership, and total authority. And that is the land of the dark feminine. Okay, the next part of this is about what's going on in the industry, and I wanted to talk about why you must claim your leadership and business right now at the start of any mentorship, whether that's with me or anybody else you work with, rather than, let's heal you for 6 months and then start your business, which is a mistake I've made in my own life and a mistake I've made with my clients. So if you're watching this and working with a mentor or looking for a mentor, here's what's up. Particularly if you associate with the dark feminine, particularly if you know that this is a part of your past, you have got to be claiming either your leadership skills, whether or not you have a business, whether that's leading your business or leading your life, right away with your mentor. And if you have a business, you need to be starting your business messaging and business content immediately with your mentor, and not fall into the trap of I have to heal for 3 more years and then I can start my business. So, and here's why. One of the ways, I'm just pausing to feel for this. The dark feminine wants to be transformed into immediate power. Yes, there's healing. Yes, you need to release trauma. Yes, all of that is real. I would never say don't go heal your rapes. I'm still healing mine. But she demands to be transformed into immediate power. And the greatest way to rise to her potential is to dare to embody her in every single moment. So that means that I'm changing my process with my clients. That means if you work with me, I used to, with my clients, do a whole bunch of healing and then help them start their businesses. We're not doing that anymore. There's 2 intensives in the beginning when you work with me now. The first one is healing. The second one is leadership, authority, and getting into the world. Why? Hey, Richard. Because when you claim your authority, claim your leadership, run your business, even from the level that you're at, and dare to harness authority and harness your power, that action starts to cause the trauma to fall away. That action starts to cause the impact of the near-death experiences to fall away. That action causes the past sexual abuse to start to fall away. Why? You're teaching your body and your nervous system and all of your being something brand new. So yes, you do the healing work too. Yes, you do the trauma healing too, absolutely. But it's not a question of, waiting to be healed, because, you could go to a coach and they could take you through healing for 6 months, and then you know what I'm saying? And no, your authority and your integration of the dark feminine happens when you take that action towards your leadership and takes your action towards your business. Then the trauma falls away, and then you clean up the mess and the pain as you go. And this is actually much faster. It's like quantum leaps. It's like skipping lifetimes of suffering and trying to untangle it, because the empowerment and the liberation of showing up as you in the world in your full glory is 60 to 70% of what untangles the rest of this. Are there questions so far? I have been going for a while. And I want to name that I'm changing my work with clients to say, like, no, at the beginning, if you're working with leadership, okay, great. What's your form of leadership? How do we take you into that? What's your most empowered expression right now? We're doing that in your life. You want to start a business? Great. We're starting that like day 1, day 2, and then we're doing the healing as we go. Because otherwise it just becomes like an always waiting, and you're never embodying what you came here for. Okay. So I have some notes. I'm checking if there's questions. Okay. No questions so far. So let's go back to the dark feminine, really deeply into this. So the dark feminine is she who goes to death and returns. And whether you're talking about your own journey, right? Because I know that's you if you're here. Or if you're using the myth of like Persephone, or if you're using the definition of a priestess. And if you go and Google the definition of a priestess, the definition of a priestess is she who goes to death, dies, and returns with greater gifts for the collective or greater gifts for the tribe. So what this whole journey is really alluding to is, how do you take your scary experiences, take your heavy as fuck experiences, take your near-death experiences, go to the underworld, dare to go to death, come back and return as a leader, return as an authority, return as a priestess, and bring those gifts to the tribe. Because that's the definition of the priestess. That's one definition of the dark feminine. That's the definition, that's the story of Persephone. It's all of it, right, together. In my journey, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey and my attraction to this, and then some of what I do for you guys, and then we'll wrap up. I've shared a lot of my journey in other live streams. Very, very short form. I went through a lot of heavy traumatic experiences in my childhood, and as a result got told many things. I had like incurable medical whatever. I had PTSD. I was just getting these prescriptions of why this made me look broken and not whole. Years ago, I went into this very, very deep journey and like faced down trauma after trauma after trauma, and like literally spent a couple of years in hell in the underworld, literally working with Kale, working with Pele, working with these energies. And what happened was I came out, well, with a clear vision and message for my life. But I also came out like free of PTSD, free of insomnia, with like a healthy, strong body. And all of this journey to the underworld came out translated into this like really radiant physical health. And then of course, what's the teachings? I've been working with trauma work, and that's changing. But what are the teachings from that journey? Through my own whole past journey, I've been fascinated with these archetypes, whether that's like goth subculture, right? Or Persephone, which I've spoken to, who goes to death and returns, or being initiated as a priestess. And let's talk about that. Hey, Melanie, good to see you here. Or being initiated as a priestess. If you're meant to have some journey in the light, like love and light, this might not apply to you. But if you're resonating with what I'm seeing, or if you're on the replay, and if you've had these near-death experiences or these traumatic experiences, yet know that your role is as a businesswoman or a community leader, listen up. The priestess, the path of the priestess is not, it's not just like love and light and butterflies, unless those are your archetypes. It's about dropping into the body and radical embodiment, daring to get radically honest about every challenge you've ever faced, lovingly slaying those demons, embracing sexuality and your body, and coming back with medicine to serve others, as well as a certain level of authority and leadership. That's the priestess. That's the actual role of the priestess. And that's actually the actual role of the dark feminine. A part of this that I'll touch upon is sexuality and sacred sexuality. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do a separate live stream on this. How do I say this succinctly? As a woman leader who is an emissary of the dark feminine, your sexuality is your greatest magic, your greatest power, and your greatest medicine. And dealing with it, meeting your sexual desires, meeting your sexual shame, meeting your sexual power cannot be avoided, and in fact must be embraced if you want to have your business flourish, if you want those amazing relationships with men, if you want to simply be in a role of leadership or authority. And that could be business, but for some of my clients, it's quantum leaps in their current careers. It's not necessarily changing what you're doing. It's how you're doing it. Your sexuality and your sexual energy are like the chalice. One of the chalices, there's others. One of the chalices of your leadership, your authority, and your medicine. And you cannot integrate into these archetypes of the priestess, of Kali, of the dark feminine, of any of this without both clearing sexual trauma and sexual shame and fully owning your sexual superpowers. Whether or not you have a partner, this applies you with yourself, this applies you with your partners, this applies you and your business, it applies to everything. There's a lot of you here. I'm not seeing a lot of comments. If there's questions, please pop them in. I also know that this is a really intense topic. So, messaging is like totally fine. Messenger is totally fine. Okay. So I want to name that I've been on my own process of integration still and always, and reconsidering the way that I work with my clients. If you've been considering mentorship, I'm naming that that's shifting, and what I'm doing and why and how. And I'm going to post about this later this week, but just giving you guys the top level right now. I'm seeing a need for a few things that are not being addressed in this industry. The first thing, well, I'm just going to put them all together, and they are this. One, if you're on a path of business and leadership and also on a path of personal healing, that the business and leadership mentorship has got to start at the beginning of the container, not at the end. Two, that there needs to be space, how do I want to say this, for full liberation from shadow and trauma in these containers. I don't do mindset. It's much deeper, not surface level stuff. I work with the body on a cellular level. Two, there needs to be a space for deep healing that's relatively rapid. Does it happen overnight? Maybe not, but we're talking months instead of years. 3, I'm seeing a really big need, and I've always known this one, about how sacred sexuality absolutely needs to be integrated with all of this work. Oh, hey, I'm seeing other names pop up. Hello. It's suggesting I tag people. Hi. How sacred sexuality has got to be integrated in this work, and here's why, you guys. And it's something we don't want to talk about collectively, but I'm going to talk about it because that's what I do. Most of us have been through sexual trauma. Number one, most of us have been through sexual trauma. I've been doing this for years. Not all of my clients, but I have been, and most of my clients have been. And that trauma has got to be, I don't want to say healed. You absolutely deserve to be liberated from it. You deserve the liberation from that. And the flip side is that your integrated sexuality is your greatest superpower and can be used for magic and magnetism and money and men and all of the things you really desire. So we need to walk right up to this one and say that sacred sexuality absolutely does belong in this container. Do I sleep with my clients? Absolutely not. That is not what I'm talking about. Do I give you, MP3 sexuality exercises to do with yourself? Yes. Do you have homework on sacred sexuality with yourself? Yes. Are we going to talk about what you discover in that homework? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So here's the invitation. If you resonate with the dark feminine, if you resonate with these archetypes, if you resonate with she who has gone to the underworld and returned, if you resonate with Kali, if you resonate with the story of this priestess, if you're a woman who has been through these near-death experiences, multiple rapes, whatever it is, and you've done the basic healing, you've gone to therapy, you're 5 years past that stuff, that's not what I'm talking about. There's a space for that, but that's not what this conversation is. If you've done the years of therapy already, and you also are in a position of authority, you're a leader, you're a priestess, you're a businesswoman, you're a teacher, and you need to take that to the next level, or if you suspect that that's you and you're ready to rise and really harness that and embody that role, I'm going to invite you to reach out and to talk to me about mentorship, because what I'm doing in this work is revolutionary. It's not business coaching. It's not mindset. It's not therapy. It's none of that. It's 3 things. It's work with your sacred sexuality and sacred, sexual energy. It's psychic channeling over your business and life purpose. And it's rapid trauma release. We're doing those 3 things together. So if that speaks to you, send me a private message and reach out and we'll start the conversation. Before I wrap up, are there questions? While you guys have me, this is the time to ask questions. I get that sometimes it's too vulnerable. You can inbox me. Okay. Much love. I'm going to give you a little Maui shot before I hop off. From Hawaii, much love to you. Have a fantastic day, and you know where I am.